What's going on, Sooner Nation? Great news could be in store for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail, as not only does Oklahoma have an opportunity to build some more momentum with a big win against Ole Miss this weekend, but the Oklahoma Sooners could be looking to add more targets to their 2027 class, which is currently the number one class in the entire country, and they are elite prospects. The Oklahoma Sooners just got a prediction in favor of them. So we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk a little bit more about the defensive back room and who are some of those targets in 2027, along with maybe a 2026 target you should be keeping your eyes on. Before we do that, though, as always, I want to hear from y'all. So join the discussion, jump in the comments below, give me your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, this is where I ask you to hit that like and hit the subscribe button so that you're not missing out on any Oklahoma content or any Oklahoma recruiting content, as we're covering that for you around the clock all the time. And it's an easy way to be brought up to speed. But the Oklahoma Sooners got a prediction today in favor of them to land the 4-star 2027. I believe they have him listed as a cornerback, but I believe he plays safety. Be interested to see where he actually gets placed. I believe Brandon Hall's recruiting him, so he actually would end up playing safety at Oklahoma. But that's going to be the one and only Gabriel Osborne down there at Mustang High School. And this is big for Oklahoma. This would be a big time get, as he is a nationally regarded prospect that a lot of teams across the landscape wants. You just saw LSU recently offer him. Texas A&M has been in the mix, and I've gotten a chance to actually go see Gabriel Osborne a couple different times in person, whether it's at the Mustang games or out there at the Brent Venables football camps. And this dude is an absolute monster and somebody that you want Oklahoma to get. He's a 6'2", 182-pound cornerback safety. Let's just say cornerback safety. I think he'll end up playing safety if Brandon Hall's the guy recruiting him. But 6'2", 180 pounds, really lengthy guy. You really like that kind of frame. He's the 160th player in the 247 composite rankings, and he's the 74th player nationally. So Gabriel Osborne, definitely, like I said, a guy that's going to be nationally regarded, and you can kind of see that in his offer list, especially with LSU being DBU in there, kind of wanting him. Only got 247's reporting 11 total offers. He might have a little bit more than that just aren't put up in there. This past season, though, 43 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 10 pass breakups. Now, it's also important to note that he's kind of been an athlete for Mustang. He also plays a little bit of wide receiver as well out there as well. So he scored 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 punts, 1 kickoff, averaged 26.9 yards across 8 kick return opportunities. So a dynamic athlete that maybe could be a kick or punt returner for Oklahoma. And, you could be looking at potentially needing that as Satania moves on. Obviously Peyton Bowen will probably end up moving on as well at some point. So that could be big. So he just recently took an unofficial visit out to Texas A&M, and then Ole Miss offered him on October 9th. So he'll get an opportunity to see Ole Miss when Ole Miss comes to Norman to play the University of Oklahoma. So big news there. Oklahoma gets a new prediction in favor of just an elite 2027 prospect. And I think it would be nice to see Oklahoma land some of these elite 2027 targets in state. But before we get to some of the other 2027 targets, looking at 2026, Oklahoma, obviously, we've talked about it before, trying to flip the 4-star safety, Caden Hall, that's currently committed to Florida, 6'3", 195 pounds, the number 237th player in the entire country, 25 total offers. Really would like to see Oklahoma go out there and land him, but it really feels like you're going to have to wait to see who Florida hires before maybe Caden Hall makes that decision. Or maybe he waits until a little bit later in the process to at least give Florida the opportunity. So we'll kind of track his recruitment, follow up with what's going on there. But a name that everybody should be paying attention to that I 100% could see Oklahoma try to circle back up around if they don't land Caden Hall is a guy by the name of Braylon Womack, a 5'11 and a half, or if you want to call him 6 foot safety, 195 pounds out of Flowwood, Mississippi. He's the 14th overall player in the 247 composite rankings, 35 total offers. When you talk about DBUs, you've got Ohio State in the mix, Texas, LSU, everybody that does well with recruiting cornerbacks and safeties, they're in his list. And he took an official visit to Auburn, to Texas A&M, to Ohio State. But the reason why I say you should be paying attention to this, because things are not good at Auburn right now. And there is a good chance that you could see Hugh Freeze fired by the end of the season. And this is a position of need that Oklahoma could circle back around with some other guys that maybe they haven't been super engaged with, especially with some elite targets that could come in and play for you right away next year. And Womack's a guy that I think that could 100% do that for the Sooners. So it would be nice to see Oklahoma land another 5-star. So just keep your eyes on that. That could get interesting, especially if Hugh Freeze gets fired and Auburn continues to fall off the wheels. The question is 2027, right? Who else in the DB room could you potentially be looking for the Sooners to go out there and land? Braden Presley is an interesting prospect here in the 2026 class, to where if they're not able to land him, I probably see them in 2027 having to shift focus to maybe taking 2 safeties. And one of the safeties that I kind of identify is another in-state kid, Samaj Stanford, the 82nd ranked player in the 247 rankings, 5'11", 180 pounds. Oklahoma is pushing really hard for Samaj Stanford. They've kind of been really in with him for a while. They offered him early. This is somebody that, they've identified. They would love to be able to get Samaj Stanford on campus. He's out at Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, so just right up the road. They've been out to see him play this year. So Samaj Stanford, somebody that you can see Oklahoma try to go out there and grab. When you look at the cornerbacks, Bryson Brown, he's an in-state kid out of Broken Arrow. Not 100% sure where Oklahoma currently sits in his recruitment. Haven't had a chance to follow up with him, but you haven't heard too much noise, which makes me think Oklahoma just maybe they're not pushing as hard, especially when you've got a guy like Trenton Blaylock out of Humble, Texas. That is Torrey Blaylock's younger brother. He's 6 foot, 165 pounds. He's available. You already have a guy like Mikael McCreary committed in this class. Montre Jackson is another guy that's been to a couple Oklahoma camps, somebody that Jay Valai has done a really good job at keeping in contact with, keeping that relationship there. Jerry Outhouse Jr. is another guy where Oklahoma would like to, see if they could get him. Talon Mayo, a 6'3", 185-pound corner out of Lewisville, Texas, teammates with Michael Fasusi at one point. Hey, you'd love to see Oklahoma go out there and get him. And then, of course, the one prized cornerback in the 2027 class where I feel like Oklahoma has positioned themselves pretty well. He's the number 3 prospect in the entire class, and that's going to be Joshua Dobson, the 6'1", 175-pound corner out of Fort Mill, South Carolina. Got a total of 30 offers. We've talked about that one before, but Oklahoma, I felt like, has done enough to position themselves to potentially maybe get an official visit when official visit season comes around. We'll have to see if Joshua Dobson can make it back on campus, maybe for any junior days or any of those recruiting events that Oklahoma would host, or even maybe for another game day visit. But this year, he's been to Clemson, he's been to Notre Dame, he's been to Tennessee. I would imagine he's going to get out to a couple other schools. Just an elite overall around quarterback. But there's a lot of really good prospects that Oklahoma could go out there and grab. So I want to hear from y'all. Join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Give me your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and hit that subscribe button, and we will see you all next time.